So thanks for staying with NDTV. You're watching the Thursday edition of the World Report with me, Arjun Samar Mahindra. PM Modi has just added 2 more feathers to his cap, bringing his total number of global accolades honors to a whopping 27. That's correct, viewers. On Wednesday, Namibia awarded PM Modi its highest civilian honor, the Order of the Most Ancient Welwitschia Mirabilis. It's a rare tribute named after a desert plant that, of course, symbolizes resilience and long life. Now, just a day earlier, on Tuesday, in fact, Brazil conferred its Grand Collar of the National Order of the Southern Cross, their top honor for foreign nationals, recognizing PM Modi's leadership and growing global influence. Now, over the years, countries across every continent have honored PM Modi. The world seems to be taking note and saying thank you, this time in 27 different ways. PM Modi is likely to travel to the UK by the end of this month for a visit that could very well see both sides formally ink the landmark India-UK free trade deal, or the India-UK FTA as it's being termed, and also explore ways to expand bilateral ties in defence and security spheres, diplomatic sources told NDTV. Now, both sides are in the process of finalising the dates for the PM's visit to the UK by the end of July or the first half of August, they said. Earlier, meanwhile, there were indications that UK PM Keir Starmer will in fact visit India first. It is learned that British Prime Minister may visit India later this year. Shifting focus to Washington, where US President Donald Trump has launched a multi-front trade assault on Brazil, threatening it with massive new tariffs and also demanding the end of criminal charges against his former ally, President Jair Bolsonaro. Now, Trump's tariff letter to Brazil is far more aggressive, with a much higher levy as well than any other trade missive he's sent earlier this week. And it has in fact prompted a response from Brazilian President Lula da Silva Ignacio to push back on what he is calling interference in the nation's affairs. Meanwhile, Uria Fancelli from Sao Paulo gets you more.
Trump's 50% tariffs on Brazilian products might have, in a very limited sense, a political angle. He's clearly trying to protect Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil's former president, from what he's calling a political witch hunt by the country's judiciary. Let's not forget, Bolsonaro tried to stage a coup in January 2023, very similar to Trump's Capitol riot. His supporters invaded the buildings of all 3 branches of government in Brasilia, and as a result, Bolsonaro is now banned from running for office and could even face prison. So this pressure from Trump isn't just about economics, it's a message to his own base. He's presenting Bolsonaro as a victim of the same forces he claims are after him. It fits his narrative. Strong leaders silenced by institutions fighting for freedom. But honestly, I don't think that's the real reason behind such drastic economic measure. What really matters is timing. As I've been saying all week, this announcement comes right after the BRICS summit hosted by Lula. And Trump had already threatened to slap tariffs on countries that took what he called an anti-American stance. So this move is clearly part of a broader strategy to punish governments he sees as challenging the US global dominance. And it has nothing to do with trading balances. In fact, Trump's letter claims that the US is being treated unfairly by Brazil, but that's simply not true. The United States actually runs a trade surplus with Brazil. So this isn't about correcting economic injustice. It's about sending a political message. And there's more. Trump has always used economic pressure as leverage. He did it with Mexico, he did it with Canada, and he's even talked about taking control of the Panama Canal to push out foreign influence. His goal is to reset US influence in Latin America, not through dialogue, but through pressure. And tariffs are his favorite tool. This isn't about defending shared values or protecting American voters. It's about control, about reshaping the map of influence in the region and selling that as patriotism to his base. He wraps it in slogans, but in the end, It's old school power politics dressed up in America First language.
And well, there's more on Trump tariffs. The US president has also sent out letters to the leaders of 7 other countries notifying them that tariffs will be charged on goods imported from these countries starting the 1st of August. Now, Trump first posted letters to 7 countries, namely the Philippines, Brunei, Moldova, Algeria, Iraq, Libya and Sri Lanka on his Truth Social account, his own social media platform, mind you. Now, according to the letters, 30% tariffs will be imposed on Libya, Iraq, Algeria and Sri Lanka, while 25% on Brunei and Moldova and 20% on the Philippines. Shifting focus to New Delhi, where an Indian Commerce Ministry team will soon visit Washington for another round of talks with the US for a proposed trade pact. Now, as per government sources to NDTV Profit, the negotiations will happen on both interim and the first phase of the bilateral trade agreement during this visit. Now, the visit dates have not been yet finalized. However, sources are confirming that the team is expected to visit Washington as early as even next week. Now, earlier this month, the Indian team led by Chief Negotiator Rajesh Agrawal returned from Washington after concluding talks on the pact. The devastating floods sweeping through central Texas have claimed at least 119 lives, with over 160 people still unaccounted for. The catastrophe has triggered fresh scrutiny of the country's emergency response model, especially as US President Donald Trump, who recently proposed phasing out the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, altogether, which is now touting a swift federal response to the crisis. Here's more.
The challenges that we face is tremendous amount. We're talking mounds of debris that is in the river. We have over 300. We're working about an 8-mile stretch of the Guadalupe River here in Ingram, and so we have tremendous challenges from the standpoint of the debris that is in the river, and so we have 300 people working. We have all the heavy equipment that we can muster up to try to remove that debris. We are finding vehicles and RVs deep inside the debris that you can't even see from the outside. And so the challenges are there, they're real.
Several hundred people gathered for a worship ceremony at a high school stadium in Texas on Wednesday evening to remember at least 120 people who died in the catastrophic flash floods over the July 4th holiday, as well as for the many who are still missing. Now, many attendees wore blue shirts with the school slogan, "TV Fight, Never Die," or green ribbons for Camp Mystic, the century-old all-girls Christian summer camp in Kerr County, where at least 27 campers and counselors, in fact, lost their lives. Meanwhile, officials have said 5 campers and 1 counselor have still not been found. And the US is having its worst year for measles spread in more than 3 decades. That's correct, with a total of 1,288 cases nationally and another 6 months to go in 2025. Now, the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said that the national case count has surpassed 2019, when there were 1,274 cases for the year, and the country almost lost its status of having eliminated the vaccine-preventable illness. Furthermore, that could happen this year if the virus has a non-stop spread for 12 months. A purported Chinese hacker has been arrested in Milan. That's correct, at the DOJ's behest, mind you. Now, Shu Zhevei was arrested at Milan's Malpensa airport on the 3rd of July after an international warrant was issued by the US. The 33-year-old purported hacker has been suspected of being linked to a Chinese government-backed hacking group, also known as the Hafnium, that was also accused of, in fact, penetrating Microsoft Exchange email software back in 2021 in a massive espionage campaign, purportedly, in fact, employed by the Shanghai PowerRock Network Corporation Limited. He worked as a part of a network of Chinese companies contracted to conduct government-sponsored hacking. A 9-count U.S. indictment accusing Xu of participating in a hack targeting U.S. research into COVID vaccines was forthcoming. Meanwhile, Italy seems to be caught in the middle of a rock and a hard place as Washington and Beijing are involved in the case. While it is close to Trump, it is also maintaining cordial relationships with China despite backing out of its Belt and Road initiatives just a while ago. In fact, Meloni's deputy was also scheduled to visit Beijing only later this week. A student pilot from Kerala has been identified as one of the 2 victims killed in a tragic mid-air collision involving 2 training aircraft near the Steinbach South Airport in Canada. The Consulate General of India in Toronto identified the victim as Srihari Sukesh. In a social media post on Wednesday, the consulate said it is in contact with Srihari's family, the flying school where he was a student, and also the police to provide any needed assistance possible. The other victim was identified as 20-year-old Savannah May Royce, a Canadian citizen. The students collided when approaching a landing strip while practicing takeoffs and landings. The Transportation Safety Board has meanwhile said it is gathering information and assessing the fatal crash. Meanwhile, an Indian tourist who travelled to Moscow with 12 others has alleged inhumane treatment by Russian immigration authorities, and he's also claimed that 9 of them were detained for hours without any explanation whatsoever. Amit Tanwar narrated his ordeal in a lengthy post on Instagram and has also appealed to the Indian embassy in Moscow and PM Modi himself to in fact intervene in the matter. The nightmare purportedly started for Tanwar ever since he, along with 12 Indian students, landed in Moscow on the 8th of July with all necessary and valid documentation. However, only 3 were cleared by immigration and the remaining were held back without any explanation, so Tanwar claims. And an hour later, the group was moved to a separate room. There, Tanwar said the immigration officers checked their mobile phones, including photo galleries, search history, and even YouTube activity for nearly 10 to 15 minutes. Tanwar said the officers later informed them that they would be deported. Russia has targeted Ukraine with a record 728 drones early Wednesday. Viewers, now this assault comes just hours after US President Donald Trump in fact pledged to send more defensive weapons to Kyiv and aimed unusually sharp criticism at his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. The attacks in fact comes in the latest in a series of escalating air assaults in recent weeks that have involved hundreds of drones in addition to ballistic missiles, straining Ukrainian air defenses at a perilous moment in the war. Over in Washington, Western media reports are claiming that the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth halted a planned shipment of American weapons to Ukraine on July 2. And he did this without notifying the White House. That's correct. The paused shipment included key military hardware. Some of these munitions had already in fact arrived in Poland and were en route to Kyiv when the order came through. Over in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia has just overhauled its visa system and it's no longer about your job title. Indian expats must now prove their skills, education and even salary levels to stay or move to the kingdom. That too with a strict deadline on the 3rd of August. My colleague Parmeshwar Bawa takes you through what you need to know.
Saudi Arabia is rewriting the rules, and it's no longer just about your job title. It's about what you really bring to the table. For decades, expats in the kingdom, from cleaners to surgeons, held the same residency permit. That's changing big time. Now it's all about your skills, your salary, and your experience. Saudi Arabia has officially launched a new work visa system starting July 2025, and it's being perceived as a game changer. No more one-size-fits-all residency permits. Now, expats are being sorted into 3 categories. The first being high-skilled, so think engineers, doctors, artificial intelligence experts. The second one being skilled. This includes supervisors, technicians, also tradespeople. And the third one is a basic visa, which is drivers, cleaners, and loaders. And it's not just a label, that your visa gets, your job options, even how fast your paperwork gets cleared depends on where you land. This is all being tracked through the government's digital platform, which is called Kiva. But why exactly is this big shift happening now? Because Saudi is pushing ahead with Vision 2030. It's their massive plan to move beyond oil. So projects like NEOM and the Red Sea project need global talent, not just manpower, but minds that can code, innovate, and lead. Now here's what it means for Indian workers already in the kingdom. If you've got the experience and qualifications, this might work in your favor because you could see easier renewals, better job mobility, and maybe even longer term residency. But if you're in the basic category, brace yourselves with more documents, stricter checks, and possible delays in switching jobs or renewing permits.
And from conducting stem cell experiments in a glove box to experiencing microgravity for the first time, Indian Air Force officer Shubhanshu Shukla is now nearing the end of his 14-day mission aboard the International Space Station, or the ISS. Viewers, we have a special reaction of Shubhanshu Shukla beaming straight from the ISS. Take a look.
So Shuks, I know you've been very busy with your research that has been brought up from India. Can you tell me about some of the research you've been doing and why it's been particularly interesting and exciting?
Of course. Thank you so much for your question. I would agree. Yes, I have been very busy since the time we have come, doing a lot of research on the station, and I'm very excited. And this mission is actually kind of opening the doors for microgravity or space research for Indian researchers and scientists. And I'm so proud that ISRO has been able to collaborate with national institutions all over the country, and they came up with some fantastic research, which I am doing on the station for all the scientists and researchers, and it is exciting. It is a joy to do this, and the research spans various domains, various disciplines, right from doing some stem cell research and to growing some seeds, seeing the effect of microgravity on seeds, also evaluating the cognitive load on astronauts while they are interacting with screens on board the station. So it has been fantastic, and I feel proud to be this kind of bridge between the researchers and the station to conduct this research on behalf of them. One particular research which I am really excited about is the stem cell research, wherein the scientists are trying to explore that whether by adding supplements to the stem cells, is it possible to accelerate the recovery or the growth, or to repair the injury. And it has been great to work in the glove box doing this research for them. And I'm just really, really excited to be doing this. And I'm extremely proud of all the teams who have worked together to put up this research for us, and just happy to be here doing this for them. Thank you.
And with that, it's time we step into a short break. More on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching The World Report on NDTV, and it's time for news from the world of business, where India is currently leading the country of origin for billionaire immigrants in the US. That's correct. Forbes has noted it's America's richest immigrants 2025 list published on Wednesday. Israel and Taiwan, meanwhile, are next on the list. The article further notes that cybersecurity mogul and CEO of Zscaler, Jay Chaudhry, is the richest Indian American in the US currently, with a whopping net worth of over $17.9 billion. Nvidia has become the first company in history to reach a $4 trillion valuation. The market cap milestone for the US firm, which makes hardware to power the artificial intelligence boom, marks a rebound from earlier this year, when the rise of Chinese AI startup DeepSeek caused Nvidia's shares to dip. Now, the achievement also comes despite US chip export restrictions that have dented sales to China. But the company is still signaling its commitment to the Chinese market. In fact, CEO Jensen Huang also plans to visit Beijing next week before launching an AI chip specifically designed for China, as per reports. And Elon Musk Starlink has received regulatory clearance from the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Centre, or INSpace, as we call it, to in fact launch its satellite-based internet services in India. Now, sources indicate that Starlink became the third company to receive approval for satellite communication or SATCOM services from the Department of Telecommunications after OneWeb and Reliance Jio. And over to the world of sports, with the five-match series now levelled at 1-1. Team India and England now face each other in the third and all-important test at Lord's, London, the mecca of cricket as it's called. The result of this game, viewers, will have a big say on the fate of the five-match series. India, for perspective, lost the first game to England by 5 wickets, but they bounced back in an incredible fashion and won the next game by a whopping 336 runs. Former Love Island USA contestant Sierra Ortega has apologized Wednesday for a resurfaced post where she used a racial slur against Asian people. Now, just a week before the reality show's finale, Ortega, who was half of one of the season's strongest couples, left the villa after old posts resurfaced that contained the slur. Ortega addressed the entire Asian community in a nearly 5-minute TikTok video. Listen in.
I am deeply, truly, honestly so sorry. I had no idea that the word held as much pain, as much harm, and came with the history that it did, or I never would have used it. I had no ill intention when I was using it, but that's absolutely no excuse, because intent doesn't excuse ignorance. It just doesn't. And I just need you to know that I am so sorry.
That's all we have for you this Thursday. News continues on the other side.